What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and it's counterpunching time. You know, the counterpunching, I was just trying to let it go. But understand, counterpunching is not always a bad thing. You know, it's just countering someone else's attack or assault or words, okay? And in this case, we once again have the senior man, Dontae'S Boxing Nation. He was making a video about Keith Thurman. And the ironic thing about this is I do agree with what he was saying in this video. He was talking about Keith Thurman, and he made a side-by-side comparison on what Keith Thurman said, 4 years ago versus what Keith Thurman is saying now. Keith Thurman is saying, or said 4 years ago, that Errol Spence fight could happen as well as close as 2017, and he was saying that in 15, saying he fights some, he gets a belt, he fights some journeymen, he fights some experienced guys, then a fight like that'll be ready about a year and a quarter. That's what Keith Thurman said. Now, Dontae'S Boxing Nation pointed out the comparison of what he was saying then, media, true media, and what he's saying now, okay? Now, let you guys listen to this as we move forward.
Be willing to fight Errol Spence in 2017. Or he said Errol Spence would be ready to fight him in 2017. So now we fast forward to present day, 2019, and this is what Keith Thurman just recently said about fighting Errol Spence. Now, before I read this quote, I want to set the tone. Now, Keith Thurman, he was basically doing a roundtable interview, and he was asked a question about facing Errol Spence. Clearly, by the first thing that he said in response to the question, Keith Thurman was irritated that Errol Spence's name was even mentioned. This is what he said, quote, "Everyone wants to rush things." Now, before I continue, coincidentally, it's so crazy how Anthony Joshua, about 3 years ago, he actually said almost the same thing and used that exact same word, rush. This was around the time when people started to talk about Wilder versus Joshua, and Wilder, he started aggressively calling out Anthony Joshua. And I remember right after Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder rather, right after he had won a fight, Eddie Hearn, he had came out and he was really optimistic about making a fight. He was like, "Oh man, Anthony Joshua will knock this guy out in 3 rounds. I can't wait to make this fight." And all of a sudden, AJ came out like the same week, and he did not share his promoter's sentiments because he said something that was the polar opposite. He used that word rush. He said, "Look, man, I worked hard to get to where I am right now, and I'm not going to be rushed into fighting Deontay Wilder." Now, I want to talk a little bit more about that word rush. But before I get back into that, let me go ahead and continue quoting what Keith Thurman had to say.
Let me stop Dontae'S Boxing Nation's video right there on rush. Do you see how he put a spill from talking about Keith Thurman's reluctancy to fight Errol Spence, saying rush? He compared it immediately to Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, something that he claimed Joshua said 3 years ago. 3 years ago was, this is 19, so this is like 2016. Now, if this was 3 years ago, where was the call out from Deontay Wilder? I didn't hear Deontay Wilder call out Anthony Joshua at that time. In fact, that was when Klitschko was still around. Remember that? That was when Klitschko was trying to rematch Tyson Fury for getting upset in Germany and in his hometown. Okay, so Anthony Joshua, he states, not saying that Deontay Wilder's a liar, but this is what I am saying. I didn't hear Deontay Wilder call out Anthony Joshua at all. So the difference between Errol Spence and Keith Thurman, Errol Spence was calling out Keith Thurman. Deontay Wilder was not calling out Anthony Joshua. He was not calling out Klitschko. He was not calling out anyone that he had to face with Tyson Fury, remember that. But this guy that Dontae'S Boxing Nation was referring to, Deontay Wilder, at that time was considered a world-class cherry picker. Him, Danny Garcia, and other guys of the PBC. The hungriest guys of the PBC was guys that he's ridiculing now, which is Keith Thurman, which he should be, because Keith Thurman now is changing his tune. One thing that Dontae left out is Deontay, okay? Deontay is now saying those same words, talking about rush, have patience, with time come patience, good things come to those who wait. Come on, man, read between the lines. All this shit sounds alike. Now, if you notice, Dontae did not twist that with what Deontay's saying about Anthony Joshua now, because that's what Deontay's saying to this day, okay? He's saying that Joshua, the fight needs to be, y'all need to be patient with the fight. With time comes patience. That sounds like what Keith Thurman's saying, but Keith Thurman's really basically ducking, okay? Like Deontay, he's ducking to get more money. Keith Thurman's just ducking. That's just, you know, he should be on Bruce fucking Vane's Duck Chronicles, because he's ducking if he's not already. But he is ducking blatantly. But if you notice how he says he's known for the whole truth, he's not saying, just like now, Deontay Wilder is saying the same similar things towards Anthony Joshua. You know why he's not saying that? Because I don't think Dontae is able to say anything about Deontay, because they back Deontay. It's almost like if you're sponsored by Coke or Pepsi or Budweiser, you can't say anything bad about Coke or Pepsi or Budweiser. He can't say anything bad about that. That's the problem I have with Dontae'S Boxing Nation, Boxing Ego, and a lot of the LDBC cats, because they back their fighter without telling the whole truth. See, what he was missing, the puzzle piece is, yeah, Anthony Joshua more than likely said that, right? If he said that or not, but what's happening in present day? We're talking about present day compared to now, right? What Keith Thurman said 4 years ago in 2015 when he was calling out Floyd and people didn't know who he was, and he said in time, in 2 years, he'll fight Errol Spence. And now he's saying people need to wait and people trying to rush things, okay? Then he compared that to Anthony Joshua, or what Anthony Joshua said 3 years ago, that, hey, people are trying to rush things. He made those two comparisons, but he left out the comparison of Deontay Wilder. When Deontay Wilder supposedly was last year wanting to fight and he didn't have patience, don't wait, make the date, right? Now all of a sudden he's saying, hey, let's wait, with time come patience. See, that's the missing puzzle piece out of this whole video that he's missing, that he's obviously intentionally avoiding. He's avoiding that because he knows he cannot say anything bad about Deontay Wilder. That is not the whole truth. That is a partial narrative at this point, okay? But, hey, the funny thing about it, I agree about him when he's saying that about Keith Thurman. Yeah, Keith Thurman's ducking. He wants to fight Manny Pacquiao because he thinks he has an age. Typical PBC bullshit. They signed Manny because they knew if Manny had a name. They knew Manny had a backing. They knew Manny was the second highest draw once upon a time. That's why everybody and their mama wants to fight Manny Pacquiao, but none of these motherfuckers want to fight each other on the PBC side. Okay? That's the funny thing about it. But then you have this. I have to counterpunch this guy because this guy can't speak his mind. You can't leave out the fact that Deontay Wilder is saying, hey, let's have patience on a fight that everyone wants to see. Both of these fighters are in their prime. Both of these fighters are undefeated. Both of these fighters are champions. Both of these fighters are black. You're about black fighters, right? Why are you not trying to promote the progression of the Deontay Wilder versus Joshua fight? And Keith Thurman, why the hell would you compare Keith Thurman to Anthony Joshua? Keith Thurman's a welterweight. So we're talking about welterweights. Okay, fair enough. Where did you spin Joshua in there? You made Joshua take the fall for what Deontay Wilder's doing for Joshua now. Now Joshua wants to fight Deontay Wilder. Joshua's having second thoughts. Maybe this guy don't want to fight me. Maybe this guy is a ducker. Maybe Joshua should just start calling Deontay a coward because he turned down $100 million or $120 million. Minus 10 because he got 10 to fight Brazil, right? Okay, This is what we're dealing with these type of channels. That's why it's necessary to counterpunch these channels like this, because I was going to give them a break because I respect guys that commentate the sport of boxing, but you got to do it all the way, the whole truth, like Dontae'S Boxing Nation claims to be the whole truth, right? It's not the whole truth, Dontae. This is half the truth, okay? As much respect I have for you and your commentation, you're doing a half-assed job because you're talking on a biased point of view. And for that reason, I had to make this video. And I made a post. If you guys want to check that out, I made a post on that, and I decided to make this video because this has to be debunked, okay? Deontay Wilder is doing exactly what Keith Thurman is doing right now. They are trying to make this fight wait. It's not enough time, right? With time comes patience, right? That's both of those guys. And guess what? They're both PBC fighters. You guys tell me what you think about this video. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunched. Peace.